for us to get into the newspapers. Let's take a look at the leading stories with In Between the Lines.
Right, let's give you some idea on what are some of the leading stories. Starting off with the Sunday Independent. It says, Union guns for rogue boss. Nahawu urges DPSA minister to suspend Director General who runs a recruitment agency for family and friends. Now, Nahawu has appealed to Minister Ayanda Dlodlo to suspend Investigative Director General Yuliswa Makasi. They've accused Makasi of running the department with an iron fist management style, witch hunting, vilifying officials who blow the whistle against maladministration in the department. The union's accusing Makasi of nepotism, bullying, and unfairly suspending officials without basis and victimization of union leaders. Now, News 24 reported that employees also claimed that Makasi created a new unit in her office costing 36 million rand, in which officials were duplicating programs that were already implemented by deputy director generals. Really shocking revelations here, really speaking to the serious issue when it comes to accountability and corruption. Of course, we'll expand on that a little later on in the show. And still on the front page of the Sunday Independent, Soweto's historical Eskom debt continues to haunt residents. You may have seen here on Newsroom Africa, most of yesterday, Newsroom Africa's Linda Mnisi out in the streets of Soweto, where angry Mpho Soweto residents have erected barricades in the streets using paving bricks to bar motorists from driving around the township, while Deep Kloof residents marched in protest over electricity cuts and outages. Deep Kloof residents have been very vocal and saying that they will not pay the 6,000 rand that is being required of them by Eskom. Eskom says if you want your electricity restored, you have to pay 6,000 rand. They're saying that they will not pay that amount of money. Also complaining about the electricity boxes, saying that not all households do have them and that they would like to rather opt for that prepaid meterage system. That sums up the leading stories on the front page of the Sunday Independent.
Let me take you to the back page of the Sunday Independent. There's a lot happening. Maximum Power, that's speaking about the F1 title race between Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton, with Max Verstappen starting today's race on pole. But I want to turn the focus particularly to a story, racism in SA cricket report delivered. Now, the Social Justice and Nation Building report was handed to Cricket South Africa's Board of Directors on Friday evening. The organization's acting CEO confirmed this. Now, the report will be made public once the board has completed its deliberation. Now, for CSA, there's a financial implication to consider with the process, well over 5 million rand, which is over the original budget that was allocated for the Social Justice and Nation Building. Now, this is regarding to those hearings that ran for 4 months and it rocked South African cricket. Some of the testimonies that we heard throughout those hearings, some heartbreaking testimonies fingering several prominent personalities and showing deep divisions that existed in the sport. From administrative to playing level, national and local government came in for criticism on many occasions as well. And while the Sports Minister Nathi Mthethwa has pointed out that CSA's handling of the report will be monitored, the same holds true for his department as well as local government council around the country. Now, that report, which is going to be from Advocate Ntsebeza, will make recommendations, although it's understood that CSA is not bound to implement them. However, there is likely to be some form of action based on this report, and we really do hope that that action will be swift and speedily as well.
Let's now turn our attention to the front page of the Sunday Times, which reads ANC's Christmas headache. It speaks to the party urgently seeking 200 million rand to pay debts and staff salaries. It's scrambling the ANC to raise this money before the end of the year to cover debts and pay its employees who are now facing a bleak Christmas because the party owes them 3 months in wages. Party employees worked throughout the local government elections despite not being paid for 5 months. Salaries for August and September were only paid last week after employees intensified protest action, launching social media attacks on Treasurer General Paul Mashatile. Now, according to some insiders, they're saying that Mashatile is going to table a plan to raise funds at the party's National Executive Committee meeting next week. The ANC has a salary bill of more than 12 million rand. It owes its employees salaries for October, November and December. It also owes at least 140 million rand in Provident Fund debt, as well as recurring pay-as-you-earn tax debt and undisclosed amounts in terms of medical aid and UIF debt. And in terms of some of the solutions that have been put on the table, they say they're looking at measures to improve revenue, but they're still not finalized, and it first has to go to the Finance Committee and then the NEC, so it will be finalized once it reaches those levels. And the party's Luthuli House headquarters in Johannesburg has a staff component of 387, so a really serious one there. It's been building up for several months. And, of course, we also saw at some of the ANC recording its poorest election performance in the local government election polls after running a campaign on a much-reduced budget compared with previous polls. Staying on the front page, a happy, merry-looking man, Matthew Hines, and his family who believe in the magic of Christmas. They are showcasing their house, which they've decided to put 120,000 festive lights since the 1st of December. This dazzling displays in Lady Grey Street and Fishhook of Cape Town. Much of what you see in the movies, Buhle, when it comes to lighting up your house and really showcasing it like this. And also a story that has been ongoing and developing on the side there of the Sunday Times. Senior officials and police crime intelligence aligned to National Commissioner Sithole plan to counter evidence by Police Minister Buhle at the South African Human Rights Commission's hearings into the July riots. According to some sources, the documents and text messages seen by the Sunday Times, the officers have submitted statements to the Commission to discredit Buhle's testimony. They say that Buhle's refusal to sign off on the financial year continuation of the unit's Secret Services account left them without money ahead of the riots. And it was all despite a 138 million rand having been granted by National Treasury to crime intelligence as a rollover from the previous 2 financial years. So definitely developments which continue as we continue to hear who is to be held accountable for the July riots.
Very interesting developments there. I want to take you to the Business Times in the Sunday Times, page 3. The big read, business warns government that reforms are vital after economy contracts. Action is needed to save a country in crisis. Now, pulling South Africa back from its economic crisis remains largely dependent on government's ability to implement reforms that will boost growth, without which investment will move elsewhere. And that's according to business leaders. The GDP data this week showed the economy had contracted in the third quarter. The National Economic Development and Labour Council, NEDLAC, met to discuss the country's economic recovery plan. And Cas Kovadia, who is the CEO of Business Unity South Africa, which is part of NEDLAC, said in an interview that the country is in serious crisis and we won't improve our GDP until we get economic growth. If we don't create an environment for investment, it will move to other countries that are. Now, we need leadership, and some strong, hard decisions need to be taken. Now, Kovadia said that there's a need to focus on 4 or 5 key projects that will begin to facilitate economic growth in the country. He said NEDLAC's social partners made a number of these proposals. Some of the proposals can be pretty quick, according to Kovadia, very quickly implemented, and that's if we act consistently, we can generate confidence from foreign investment, he went on to say. So that is a very important story in the Business Times, of course, after the GDP had contracted. What do you have for the Senate?
And very quickly, wrapping up with the Sunday World, Themba Gwayo charged with the GBV. It talks about the businessman who allegedly beat up his wife, and a medical report could land him in deeper trouble. It speaks about the graphic details here that, according to a police statement, he arrived at their marital home, found his wife sleeping in the upper level and woke her up and then instructed her to pack and go. She refused, and then an argument ensued. He pulled her by the legs off the bed, slapped her several times, dragging her down the stairs, loading her bags in the car and forcing her into that car That's according to this statement. Really, really heart-wrenching details to have to hear. And it's been confirmed that Thembabai was arrested and appeared in the Randburg Magistrates Court on Wednesday, and the case was then postponed to next year.
Oh, what a heart-wrenching story that is. Of course, in the climate of GBV that we have at the moment in the country, really not something that you want to read in your Sunday paper. That's where we end the Sunday papers. When we return, we recap the headlines. And